Hi.
Good afternoon. How are you all doing? Hey, JP.
Hi. I just wanted to check that this is what I was meant to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good. You'll have to sit there and listen to us for a bit, but then we'll jump into the questions and
That's fine.
you'll be fully employed.
I'll probably come off camera and leave you to it for a bit.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Great. I think we are bang on time, so I think let's get going, Jan.
So hello everyone, hope all of you are doing well. And thank you for joining the webinar, our second webinar, and this one's more about planning and activating your digital out-of-home programmatic campaigns. So what will you learn today? So we will be recapping what we talked about in the first webinar. For those of you that didn't attend, it's going to be a bit about digital out-of-home and how it works in the buying model. And we'll talk about direct, how people buy in the direct and how they buy in programmatic. Also, we're talking about omni-channel buying, how we can measure data in programmatic, programmatic planning and buying. And as you just might have seen, we have a Q&A session with JP from Place Exchange that will be joining us too. So who are we? I'm Jan. I head up the programmatic department at 75 Media. I look after the sales and operations for the channel. I come with over 10 years of experience across programmatic and ad tech.
I'm Joel. I'm the commercial director at 75 Media. My experience is in agencies on the digital marketing side, but mainly performance focused. I've been in outdoor for a year and a half now, and I've worked closely with Jan, getting our programmatic proposition up and running, spending a lot of time speaking to new partners, some of whom have joined us today, which is great, and building out 75 Media's offer in the market and working as hard as we can to build programmatic out of home overall in the industry.
So our programmatic mission. So our mission will always stay the same. We are here to educate and innovate the programmatic digital out-of-home market. We always see that if we do a great job, we don't only win ourselves, but the whole market wins with us. So our mission will always continue to stay the same as we did in our first webinar and our second webinar, and all webinars that come forward, it will be always the same mission that we're trying to educate and innovate. And we hope today you'll learn a lot more about buying and activating campaigns programmatically.
So very briefly, because the medium may be relatively new to some of the attendees on the call, what is digital out-of-home? Well, digital out-of-home is available across loads of different environments, which is one of the things that makes it so exciting. Pretty much any environment and screen type you can think of is available to buy. Well, you'll see screens in many common places these days, whether you're in a gym, a railway station, or an airport. And some great examples here of those types of environments. So lovely screens in airports, rail stations, retail environments. And the environment that we're most passionate about at 75 Media is large format roadside. So, as I said, we've been working hard over the past few months, and I guess over the past year, to build out our offer in programmatic. And we're always really honest about what we see as kind of some of the challenges and opportunities for programmatic out of home in the UK. So the expectations are that programmatic digital out of home is going to grow around about 5% over to around 5% in 2024, and it's forecasted to hit 16% of all revenue spent on out of home by 2027. France, Australia, Germany, and the US are leading a lot of investment growth over the next 18 months. And there's reasons why the UK is slightly behind that. In the UK, we've have and will continue to have, I'm sure, a great specialist agency offer. So there's some specialist agencies in the UK that are really expert on planning and buying out of home. Many of those are embracing the programmatic opportunity now, but I think that's one of the structural reasons why it's probably not grown as much as some of the other markets to date. barriers to adoption that we have found over the past year or so are really about understanding how out-of-home fits in a strategy. So maybe part of an omnichannel strategy. Often people are looking at moving budget from other channels to invest in it, and obviously there's a risk and there's a leap of faith that has to be made there. Access to and understanding of demand-side platforms. So not everyone has access to a seat with a DSP, understands how to plan and buy out-of-home within that DSP if they do have access. And then I think fundamentally, and this is something that we need to work on as a market, is knowledge of out-of-home, knowledge of the environments and the formats, as I demonstrated in the previous two slides, what they're good for, how they fit in a campaign strategy, and how to kind of piece that all together. So there's quite a few things that I think we need to work on as an industry in the UK to build adoption levels and build investment in programmatic out-of-home. So who are we? I said, we've been working in programmatic for probably just over a year. We were actually founded in 2020 in Leeds, where we're still headquartered. The fastest growing roadside out-of-home operator in the UK. We've got a network of 1,200 roadside billboards. All of them are a large format or ultra large format. And our inventory covers all major cities and towns across the UK. It really is national. When I say it covers all cities and towns, we have sites from Perth in Scotland all the way down to Portsmouth on the south coast of England. Across our whole inventory, we reach over 60% of the adult population in the UK every fortnight. And that's one of the great things about out-of-home. It really is the last broadcast media. It offers opportunities that other media no longer really deliver in terms of being able to reach that kind of scale of audience. We solely offer large format, as I specified in the previous slide. So what's called in the industry a 48 sheet. So the previous example of that digital billboard is a digital 48 and larger. We don't have any screens that are smaller than that. And we'll talk a little bit about the sustainability credentials of programmatic out-of-home. But one of the things that we pride ourselves on at 75 Media, alongside having a developed ESG strategy that we're continuing to pursue, is that all our digital network is powered by 100% certified renewable energy. We have 5 key products. So classic billboards, that's the kind of paper and paste site that when you think about a large format billboard, your mind probably immediately jumps to think about that kind of traditional format. Reach, which is a digital version of that 48 sheet format. Skyframe, which is a large scale landscape billboard. Rise, which is a really nice, large scale, ultra large portrait format. And then Rise Plus, which are kind of landmark tower sites that we have within our portfolio. Why we love roadside. So there are loads of environments. They all perform a really important role. But I think one of the things that is very specific and distinct about the UK versus some other countries is that there's a lot of cars and a lot of road traffic, and that will continue to be the case. Growth in car ownership continues. There were 41 million cars on the road at the end of 2022. It's a real key travel mode. 58% of all journeys in the UK are made by car. It offers the opportunity to reach consumers where they are. So roads are the most used mode of transport, as those previous two statistics probably suggest. 64% of trips and 82% of miles covered are on the road. And I think what's great for advertisers is that those trips encompass a real variety of journey types. So be that leisure being the predominant, and then second, shopping being the second most frequent reason why people are out in the cars or traveling by road, and then commuting third as being the main purposes for road travel in the UK. Key thing for us is that our advertisers love roadside too. So here's just a sample of some of the advertisers that have bought programmatic media across our state in the last year. Every kind of household or challenger brand name that you can care to mention gets great value out of advertising on roadside. They continue to see it as a really important element of their brand building activity. and long may that continue.
So we're here, the buying model. So let's take a step back from digital out-of-home programmatic and look at how we traditional buy of digital. So as you would do normally on web or digital media, you work with the advertiser works with the agency, and then you work with the media owner or the site owner to book. When you do book this way, you do just a standard IO. You book on how much you want to buy, and then you get, it's then played. When we look at programmatic, it's slightly different. As you can see, we have more players that come into the market. So we have more platforms that we have. So an advertiser will work in this instance with a media agency, and then they will then plug into a demand side platform, also known as a DSP. The DSP then works with an exchange or a supply side platform to access the inventory of a media owner, and then which will then connect to the media owner itself to access their inventory. So in the buying model here, it's done by a CPM basis. So you would negotiate the rates, whichever format it might be, and then you would buy on a CPM basis. I would like X amount at this rate, and then you would buy, and then it'll be activated from the supply side platform. So the key differences of buying standard programmatic compared to programmatic out of home. Obviously, the first thing is the environment. We're not buying on web or video. We're now doing a physical environment outside of the house, let's say, or from a mobile. So that's definitely a different ad format. In the way that you buy is different. You're buying different mediums of form, and the targeting, the way you can different targeting options that you have in digital out of home varies, because now you can do by the environment, the way you can use dynamic creatives, whereas in standard programmatic, the targeting you might do very different, because you actually have cookies that you can track users, where it's very different on the other side of programmatic digital out of home. So these are kind of like the main points of benefits of programmatic digital out of home. You have the brand exposure, contextual targeting, real-time optimization, the flexibility and agility to change things and chop things when you need to at your fingertips. Omnichannel buying is amazing right now, because when you're buying across mobile, web, and adding that extra layer, it just oomphes your kind of buying and kind of really pushes that brand out there. 100% viewable. I think that's a huge win for me, because when I'm discussing digital out of home, I always people say when you're working in web, is it viewable? But 100% it is viewable in digital out of home. When you see a screen, you see the ad. That's 100%, and that kind of ties in with verification and brand safety, which we'll talk about within presentation. And as Joel mentioned, sustainability. Digital out of home is more sustainable choice than other programmatic media, which is amazing, because we always want to keep the planet safe. We always want to look after our world. So I think being in this space, and I think sustainability is a big topic in the industry, digital out of home is at the best form of it right now.
Yeah, I think increasing advertisers are looking at their supply chain and making like ethical decisions. Just from a numbers perspective, View have done some really good research around this. And for every ad impression in digital out of home, 0.35 grams of carbon is produced. When you compare that to programmatic display, it's 10 times more. When you compare that to programmatic video, it's nearly 14 times more. So it is one of the most sustainable choices that you can make, really, in terms of programmatic advertising.
Omnichannel buying.
Yeah, great. So just to give a bit of an overview about how digital out of home fits in, it's probably not very surprising to see it in this mix, but we are increasingly seeing advertisers look at how they can piece together a campaign that takes the best of all these channels and is very much complemented by digital out of home. So you can see, if you can, because there's got a lot of detail in here, that throughout that whole kind of funnel of activity, there is a role for digital out-of-home to play alongside other channels. And I think having a key understanding about where it can complement and where it can perform across that whole funnel is key when you're considering how to plan out, campaign, and activate. Jack, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah. So omni-channel funnel. As you can see, the top of the funnel is digital out-of-home screen. So to get your like reach and performance, and then we go down a tier for the proximity digital out-of-home stores, entrances, and screens. So that's kind of your offsite search display. And then on the lower funnel, we have like the aisle screens, the cashier screens you probably see in a Tesco's or the Sainsbury's, and the on-site sponsored products.
Yeah, so it just shows that correlation there between how out-of-home complements other channels as you move down that funnel.
So here's the advantages of incorporating programmatic digital out-of-home. So when you do add it into your mix, you are enhanced with targeting and personalizations, real-time adjustments. You get to see the holistic insight across all channels. So when you are buying on web, you might see the differences across the different mediums and seeing how it's better performing. So it allows your brand to have the extra reach that it needs to have, increase efficiencies and automations. Obviously, when you're doing digital out-of-home, you have the expanded reach and visibility, better measurement and data insights, and cross-channel synergy, and also you have dynamic and contextual content and cross-device consistencies across all. So data and targeting. So brand safety in digital out-of-home programmatic. So it's really important because I get this question asked a lot. It's like, how is it brand safe? Are you sure? But like all things, well, how can you measure? So brands, it's really important with brand safe because you have contextual relevance and hitting the audience at the right place at the right time. You're able to monitor and real-time monitoring. You also, different media owners are able to measure differently. But for example, 75 Media, we have our a webcam like a fisheye lens, and we can actually see our screen. So brand safety, we can definitely say, we're there at this screen and we know it's working. People also have, AI tools that they can also measure. Verification. So verification is the next part of brand safety. It's important to say that the content reviews similar to making sure the ad is in the right place. Ad placement monitoring. So when you are looking at your analysis, is ad playing? Is it monitoring it? Audience validation, making sure that the right demographics are seeing the ad, and risk detection. So you don't know, there could be perhaps a protest happening or there's something negativity, but you need to make sure that the screen is not at that place, or a different ad should be played, just to make sure that the right audience are looking at it. And also you have the transparency and reporting of verification. Measurement. So when we are measuring digital out-of-home, there are many ways to measure. So you can measure via impressions, dwell time, demographics, engagement, attribution to online and offline, and campaign effectiveness. So here is like, just a bit of a breakdown of what I just said. So when we're looking at impressions, you can measure it by foot traffic data, geolocation data. When you're looking at dwell time, it's like, and the engagement, looking at the computer vision, and maybe like if there's, for example, if there's a QR, you would know how long that somebody has, stayed on that screen to know the engagement that they've had. But it also depends on the media owner that you're working with. Demographic and audience. So you have your mobile location data and third-party audience measurement tools. And then you have engagement interactions. Like I mentioned, you have QR scans, NFC, and social interactions. So depending on the media owner they're working with and depending on the screen, is depending on these factors also. So that's all something to bear in mind when you are looking to buy programmatically. Who are you working with and what are you trying to achieve? So platforms capable of measuring data. So when you are planning a campaign in programmatic, you plan through a demand side platform, the DSP, where you can add your kind of targeting bits in. And also on the supply side, from an SSP point of view, you have your measurements and verification. On that side, you can also work with like foot traffic and audience measurement, real-time location database providers, DMPs, data management platforms, and other platforms that you can work with, that you can incorporate to find measurement of digital out-of-home. And these are some of the partners, you know, that you can work with to kind of enhance the measurement of programmatic digital out-of-home. PlaceIQ, GeoPath, Foursquare, and there's many other partners. And like I mentioned before, all those different partners that you have, whether they're a demand side platform or whether they're supply side, everyone has something that they could possibly add value to into measurement and verification. Planning. So this is now. So now we're going to go through how we're going to plan a programmatic digital out-of-home campaign, and it's quite exciting for me because I see a lot of briefs come my side, and it would be good to now explain to you guys how I look at things and what I think maybe when a brief comes, how it should be looked at sometimes as well. So when we're looking at a plan, we look at to refine and understand the brief first of all. What do we want to do? That's kind of my always questions, like what does the client actually want to do? You know, best locations, and looking at the type of environment for this campaign. Do we need to add extra layer of targeting and measurement, like we just spoke about? The type of creative that will best suit the campaign, which kind of media owner will be the best. So as Joel mentioned further up in the presentation, we have all different types of medium. So we need to see which is the best kind of medium that will suit the campaign. But one thing I would like to just mention is that when we are planning, it's important to understand they all complement each other. And it's really important to that because say you're on the train and you see an ad, and then you're out and about roadside and you see ad, it all ties in eventually. Wherever you are, they all tie in. So I think when we are looking at planning and we are looking at environments and we are looking at the screens, we should look at all of the environments as complementary to each other. They're not competing against each other. We're all complementary to each other. So understanding the brief. So it's important to, like I said, understanding like the brand identity, positioning. What do we want to do? Who's the brand? And how are we going to position it? I think that's really important, depending if you're an alcohol brand, or you're maybe a vaping client, or maybe a travel. Like how are you wanting to do this? I think one of the briefs I got recently was about travel, and he said to me, we talked about where is the most rainiest place in the UK, and I said, well, why don't we do it in Scotland? It's always raining up there. So I think that's quite a good one for brand identity and positioning, and you know, KPIs and metrics.
It's easy to say what the driest place is in England or UK in general.
There you go. So you know, you look at KPIs, you look at metrics. What do we want to measure? And remember, we spoke about the type of screens. So with the different screens, you can also look at different KPIs and metrics. So if you some of them have QR codes, I think in the retail environment, they've got a lot of QR codes and location-based stuff that you can see. So that might be something that you guys want to measure. But then if you want to hit the people that are on roadside, you know, there's a different audience there as well. So it's really thinking about who do we want to target and how we want to target them. And also we've got to be creative and innovative. We're having a huge large screens outside, and they've got to be bold. These creatives got to be amazing. They got to be pretty, because it's not just something that you see on the phone or you see on the laptop. That's like a small 320 by 50, or it has to be pretty. Like that's one of my things, that the creative has to look good, because you're not only are you speaking for the brand, but you're speaking for the media owner as well. So it's two folds when you're putting out a brand out there. So it's important that it looks great. Location. So the 68 million people in UK, and when briefs come in, a lot of briefs that come in say we want to do predominantly in London. And as you can see on the map, this is 75 Media's map. We are based everywhere, and there is much more population out of London. So you will see in Glasgow, Leeds, Manchester, Liverpool, or a big city like Birmingham, there are bigger cities. So we always have to think a bit out of the box. Yes, London's amazing, and there's a lot of people there to reach. A lot of our other media owners, they're out there, they have a lot of screens there. And that's fantastic because there's loads of people that are traveling on the train, and there's loads of people going in and out of London, but there also is a bigger market outside of London that we need to be aware of when buying. And I think sometimes it gets, when briefs come along, it gets kind of lost in translation because they think of one city where we should be thinking at a bigger scale, because there's loads of people out there that we should target. And it's important that, we put that out. So creative, like I said, it's important to be impactful, innovative formats, engaging with the consumer. And like I said, that some of them can be interactive depending on the media owner you work with. And also dynamic creative optimization, so DCO. So what is DCO? We talked about a bit on the previous webinar. I'll go quickly through it for you guys now. So DCO is dynamic creative optimization, and these are creatives based on these different triggers. So you might have by weather in that trigger, and time of day, season, by shopping center, location, and cultural events. So one thing that I do is I've got in my diary, I've got all the different events that are going on for the rest of the year, because that really helps kind of do DCO and understand, right, if there's a rugby match or if there's a football thing going on, how the different creatives will impact. If we know that more audience is traveling to a certain place, we can definitely change your creative in DCO. And I think that definitely plays into a part of why adding it into your omni-channel, because that kind of medium helps you reach the audiences and give more visibility of the brand. So programmatic DSPs and SSPs. So we've got HiveStack, PlayStation, Broadsight, and Vista. Omnichannel DSPs that we love, DV360, Hawk, Trade Desk, and Microsoft. So the next part is programmatic buying. So in the buying side, we're going to go a bit down deep, a bit nitty gritty here. So to create a deal, we create a deal in the demand side platform, in the DSP, but we need to understand which SSP is connected to the media owner. Only then we were able to access that inventory, because remember when we go in at the beginning, we said that the SSP, the supply side platform, is connected to the media owner's inventory. So it's important that we get that bit, ready in the beginning. So we create the deal, we select the SSP that the media owner is connected to. We then create the deal ID. We put the screen list that we want. We add the targeting, we add the CPM, and then we push the deal live. And then we send over a proof of play, and we optimize and end of campaign analysis. So this is a screenshot from a DSP, the lovely Hawk guys who are on as call as well. So I've got a screenshot of how we upload. So if you're a media owner that only takes banners, you put in a banner, or if it's video, you upload a video, or you do a batch upload. And then this is something I love to talk about. So this is the creatives. So when you do upload the banner or you do upload the video, there are many different types of creatives, and that is because it's not standardized. It's a physical environment, and each media owner has created a screen, and it's not all fits. So not all of the sizes are going to be the same. And that is something that we need to work on as an industry together, where it's working with Outsmart or working with IAB, or where it's working with all other media owners, is to kind of find a medium that with a screen size that fits, whether it's the D48, the D96s, the D6s, or the DN6s, or whatever sizes they are, is to kind of have it more unified. Because what you will encounter when buying all these different screens, I mean that if there's all these different screens, you need all these different types of creative to push through. So they do vary by media owner. I think, you know, each media owner, we're trying to make it as unified as possible, but it's a brand new channel. And, you know, as Programmatic was, you know how it was 15 years ago, it's at the starting point. So we're just trying to make sure we can get all the right creative aligned as possible. So here we go, deal setup. You put in the name, you put in the CIDs there. You ask for a deal ID from the media owner, who will go into the SSP, put it in, click advertiser, put the exchange in, put the CPM in, deals then set up. Once it's set up, this is brand safety and verification for you. Proof of play. Here is a true example that the campaign is actually playing. And these are a few optimization techniques. So when the campaign is live, it's you will look at, you know, kind of inventory management, looking at the different screens that you are buying across, kind of the CPM and bid management. What kind of CPMs level do you, if you need to make a margin, you're looking at that. Utilizing the ad exchanges, so different types of partners that you're working with. Cross-device optimization, so if you're working across mobile and desktop, you can then see kind of how it's working, and then also push it across onto digital out-of-home and see whether you need to optimize on that front. And sustainability and ethical consideration, so every screen, you know, is different also. So you might want to pick the most sustainable and ethical consideration from that. Looking at engagement and data, if you do layer on data, that will give you enough information about how to do the optimization. Reporting, so the campaign is now live, and you need to now put in, get the reports to send over to the client. Some things to look out for is the impression and reach, the audience, the foot traffic data, conversion, sales attributes. So if you are doing like proximity campaign, you can definitely measure those kind of sales, which is really like nice to have and to show the client. If you're doing DCO, you can measure that as well. And yeah, it's good to have that kind of reporting at the end that you send to the client, so they can see how digital out-of-home is performing.
Yeah, so I spoke at the outset about some of the challenges that we encounter when people are trying to get started with Programmatic Out-of-Home. And one of the things that we're trying to do as a media owner is support some of those advertisers to get started. So we've not long started a managed programmatic service, which helps people just get to grips with how they initially run Programmatic Out-of-Home. And we've had a good response, and I think it's great working with partners in the industry to help make this happen and move it forwards. We're under no illusions that, you know, we're like a turnkey solution for this, but aligned with the aims that we stated at the beginning of this webinar, you know, we are really looking at how we can grow the space, how we can grow the spend, and I think trying to help people get over that initial resistance or uncertainty and make the leap into their first Programmatic Out-of-Home campaign. So yeah, we're excited that we're able to offer it. And there's a couple of examples where we've worked quite well with clients to get them into out-of-home, but also get them into UK out-of-home, because one of the strange quirks of outdoor media is it varies so much country to country. So we worked with an agency in the US called Beyond. Their client was Royal Caribbean, and they came to us. And I think this is one of the things we pride ourselves on. We were really keen to support them and help them in what they were doing, and understand how they could get a campaign underway in the UK. So we worked with them over a period last summer, rolled out that campaign, supported them in understanding the right screen choices, scheduling, running that campaign, helping them with reporting. Jan mentioned proof of posting. That isn't necessarily something that all media owners do, either because they can't. And we're lucky that we have rear-facing webcams on nearly all our screens. But sometimes it's not something that they really offer as a customer service. And I think, again, going back to why we wanted to do more of a managed service offer, we recognize that we want our customer service to be really, really excellent. And it's kind of a natural progression to sort of help people throughout the whole campaign life cycle. And that is it. So quite a lot of ground covered there in 35 minutes. We have got a Q&A session with JP now, and we had some questions submitted beforehand, which was great. Thanks very much for doing so. So we're going to jump into some of those. JP's miraculously appeared on screen again.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I just went to walk the dog.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
I've got some notes. I made lots of notes.
Good. Well, the dog's well rested now, which is great, JP. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi. I can't actually see who's on the call, so if some of you know me, maybe some of you don't. But yeah, so I'm James Power. I'm basically the commercial director for Place Exchange across all of EMEA and APAC. Kind of commercial director is a bit of a wrong title. We all get involved in a lot of things at Place Exchange, and my role certainly is to run the business across both of those territories. So lots to do all the time, always busy. Very excited about the growth and the evolution of programmatic digital out-of-home in the UK. Our business actually started off in the US. So what's really quite interesting for us is that we're probably about 3 years behind where the US was. So we kind of are tracking the growth and what's happening in the developments, and it is literally mirroring, what happened over there. So all I can say is it's going to be a very exciting time over the next 3 years for us all. And, the likes of you guys embracing programmatic early on, and other media owners in the UK embracing programmatic is only going to set you guys up for the future. It's only going to get bigger. It's only going to get put more mainstream in terms of outdoor planning. So to be doing these type of sessions now is perfect.
Great, thanks, JP. So for those that don't know Place Exchange, you're a supply side platform. How do you kind of engage with the ecosystem as a whole when you're kind of running campaigns or working with media owners? Just can you give us a bit of a viewpoint into how that works day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we are one of the only truly independent and soulless SSPs. So when I say independent, I mean we're not owned by a media owner, we're not owned by the buy side or an agency. And when I talk about us being soulless, it means that we only operate an SSP. So we don't operate a DSP as well. We don't have anything else in the tech stack. So actually, we are just purely passionate about doing the best for the buy side as well as the our media owner partners on the supply side. So in terms of I guess where we fit and what we do. We've got the supply side is where we integrate to the media owners across the world via their CMS system normally. So that's a content management system. And that is really the tech connection. So we, in effect, we kind of integrate with the CMS so that we can, I'm going to say disrupt, but we're not disrupting the flow of ads, but disrupt the ads in that loop so that we can serve the programmatic ads into and onto the screens. And then the flip side is that if we've got all these, I think we've got 1.3 million screens around the world on our platform, multiple media owners. On the flip side to that is the buy side. So this is where we've got an integration, a tech integration to the DSPs. Everybody from DV360, Trade Desk, Neuron, etc. And really that connection allows the buyers through the DSP to bid on our inventory or your inventory. And really the SSP houses that inventory, but at the same time is the function for the RTB or real-time bidding. So our platform takes that bid process against the impressions that are being served from the screen owners, and then pushes that back out as ads, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. That's great. Thanks, JP. We'll jump in with another one, which John might have some views on as well. So, there's a mix of people on this webinar, different levels of experience and exposure to programmatic and out of home. And there's a lot to take in. And to be clear, we'll be sharing this afterwards, and we'll share the deck to everyone who is on this call. What are some of the common issues that you see from like first-time advertisers setting up campaigns and kind of activating in programmatic out of home? I'll go with you first, JP, as you're on a roll.
Okay, fine. Well, for first-time buyers, I guess it really depends on whether it's self-serve, i.e. they're in the DSP creating the campaign themselves and activating the campaign themselves, or whether the DSP are running it. So from a self-serve point of view, there is quite a lot to overcome. So actually in the Middle East, there's been quite a movement that clients are activating programmatic digital out of home on their own, because they've realized that actually if I'm doing all my other digital, mobile, CTV, display, etc., well, I might as well do digital out of home as well and keep it kind of all in one campaign funnel. So when that happens, that can be quite an educational piece, because they are looking at this platform, looking at a dashboard with all the stuff they understand, and then digital out of home's there, and they don't really know the difference between a D6 or a D48, or really inside a mall or outside a mall, or the difference between supermarkets and retail and that sort of stuff. So for us, there's a hell of a lot of education that goes on that first time when it's self-serve. Luckily, if the DSP is setting up the campaign for the first time client, they tend to do a lot of that work as well. But then we tend to come in and do a bit more of like the outdoor education job, in a way we act a bit like an outdoor specialist to help them understand that there is a difference between putting an ad on a bus shelter compared with putting an ad on a large format screen on a motorway, for instance. There's a very different part of your comm strategy as to what format to use, and they just see it as a screen. So it's all about education, really, for those first time advertisers, I'd say, but just at kind of different levels depending on how they're activating. I think they're all really valid points, and that's why we're keen to sort of not just talk about our network and our formats, but the great opportunities that outdoor offers. There's loads of different formats, loads of different environments, but that can be a little bit challenging for a first-time advertiser to navigate and understand. Jan, have you got any views on that? What kind of some of the common challenges for first-time advertisers?
So just to echo what JP is saying, kind of what I see as well is that when a new advertiser or an agent, from the agency side, are buying for buying digital out of home, they kind of look at it as the same way they look at a standard display, and that's kind of the issue I'm faced, because from a media owner's perspective, I'm trying to sell it in. The eyes are looking at it as the same medium, but it's not the same medium like we just spoke about. It's a physical screen that needs to kind of address, and the measurement and data points are all different as well. So from what JP, just echoing what JP said as well, it's all about education and kind of really explain to them how it is bought, but also kind of making sure they understand how it differs, because it's not the same. It's definitely not the same, and that's kind of what we need to explain, how you measure and how you look at it, in terms of medium.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. So just jumping into a slightly different question. What do you see, JP, this is something that you'll come across quite a lot. What are the differences do you see around omnichannel versus like digital out of home specific DSPs in terms of activation? How is their approach slightly different, and what are the challenges people face, or the positives around those differences in choice? And just to be clear, we pointed out some out of home specific demand side platforms, the likes of Hivestar, Vistar, etc. But then obviously there's a whole host of choice out there in terms of omnichannel DSPs where you can buy, like you said, full funnel campaigns that incorporate CTV and display. And how's it differ in your view in terms of activation?
So I think that, I mean, really it comes down to the focus of the buyer and what the buyer wants to do and what the buyer kind of needs help on almost. So you know, if the desire of the buyer is to buy all its media through one single platform with one single measurement, then that's where they go into the omni-channel DSPs. And luckily now, out of home seamlessly fits into that omni-channel mix. So we've certainly designed our platform to look like an omni-channel SSP rather than out of home SSP, so that it connects straight into the likes of Trade Desk and DV360, etc., so that they can easily just add digital out of home into the mix. Now, as we mentioned before, digital out of home is a vast array of formats, environments, mindsets, locations, and there is a real need for digital out of home only DSPs. You know, when it comes to tooling that's like dedicated to that granular bespoke management of out of home and the nuances. I mean, that's the thing. You speak to people that don't know out of home, the nuances in out of home are just massive. You know, so there needs to be that level of expertise, that level of knowledge, and that level of you know, kind of keeping digital out of home in a silo. I mean, I guess like as an industry, I mean, the beauty of being able to plug into different DSPs, whether it's omni-channel or out of home, you know, is really we're looking at two different budget sources, which is great, you know, for us to grow the industry. You know, there's different levels of data input and different ways that different DSPs use data, where they get their data from. As I mentioned before, you know, there's different levels of knowledge as well. So, you know, I think that whichever way we go, we at Place Exchange do quite often act as that kind of, I guess, out of home / omni-channel specialist, where we kind of like bring our knowledge together. Like if you look at our commercial team, certainly, you know, we've kind of got a mix of probably 50-50 of outdoor people and techie programmatic people, so that we can bring all our knowledge to help wherever that demand's coming from. So yeah, I think it's down to the buyer and the agency of how they want to do things, but it's certainly a big role for both of them, I think.
And from an omni-channel perspective, it does, I think you mentioned this in that answer, it does open up the aperture to kind of different budgets effectively, not just pure play out of home budgets. What do you think we can do to help, you know, the end advertiser pull money from other channels into out of home? How can we expand on and kind of take hold of that opportunity and grow it? Because me and Jan talk about quite a lot. We see that as a big opportunity for growth in out of home. Yeah.
Well, I think the primary thing is to ensure that we're seeing the right people. So, you know, we need to be getting time in with the clients themselves, because fundamentally they're the ones that are going to be making the decisions. And within that marketing team at the agency, at the client, to understand who is planning and activating the programmatic campaigns, and then speak to them. So it might not be the kind of brand team, it might be a separate digital team. So it's, and then once you're in there, it's about the education of how easy it is to set up campaigns all in, you know, one platform, and speak about the benefits of doing that. You know, I think that if you go back, you're probably not old enough, but if you go back to the 90s, you know, the press guys always had a fantastic strategy of getting into the clients, because they knew that's where the money started. And if you've ever come across anyone who's been a great client director in out of home, they've all come from press, because that was in their blood. And I think we've kind of got that opportunity at the infancy of programmatic, we got that opportunity to kind of like almost rip up the rule books a bit, go back to basics, get into the client, start educating them, start finding the right people to speak to, and educating them from that point, because they're really the ones that make the decisions as it waterfalls down.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, thanks, JP. Jack, you come from a broader kind of programmatic background. You've been in the industry quite some time, but this is the first time you've been solely involved in out-of-home. If you're coming into this market and you're looking to buy programmatic out-of-home for the first time, what do you see as like the major sort of pitfalls or challenges? And you ran through some really detailed stuff there about planning and buying, but what are the kind of banana skins or things that people just maybe don't think about or get stuck on?
So like I mentioned before, if you doing digital out of home as a first time sort of thing, don't look at it like it's standard, because it's not standardized. Nothing is standardized. Everything is brand new. So like we just, like JP said, rip it up, start again. This is brand new medium. And when you are planning a campaign, look at it from a different lens. I think people don't see the ROI or the converted versions, or they ask me, oh, how do we measure this? But you're not measuring the same way as you're measuring standard digital. And I think that's kind of the first thing on that, is trying to make them understand that kind of point of view. Understanding that, you know, technically we're still in the infancy, whether it's a DSP, SSP, exchange, data partner, whoever you are, we're still in the infancy of this, and bringing it together, whether it's you're looking at the creative specs, looking at it from a CMS, because remember, this is a physical screen outside, and there's so many things that you can encounter when buying. So like if you want to say banana skin, for example, the creative spec is one thing that I hit my head against, because there's so many things that there's so many different screens out there, and there's so many different things, the way you can buy, and say maybe a DSP won't let you buy. It's also up to the DSP. Remember, when you're buying, it's up to the DSP. So when they're buying, if it doesn't transact, you can't buy that. It won't let you transact to buy the media owner. So then you have to go through the full funnel. Like when we spoke about the funnel, where we said that there's an advertiser, and then there's a media owner, and then you just buy with an IO. That's direct. When programmatic, you have to make sure everything syncs. The DSP, the SSP, the media owner, the agency, or the advertiser. All four of you partners have to sync to make this deal work. And like I said, we're at the infancy of this, so we have a lot of work to do as an industry to kind of push this through.
Just to follow on from that though, I think we mentioned artwork quite a few times here, and kind of artwork standardization. I mean, we don't want to be worrying people about it, you know. No. Actually, you know, we work with the IAB to try and standardize a lot of our specs anyway, and I know that we probably get caught up in the detail, but at the end of the day, a D48 sheet is just 2 to 1.
Yeah.
A D6 is just 1 to 2. You know, so as media owners and working alongside other media owners, although it might be a slightly different spec, you can make that work. Mm-hmm. So, you know, let's all try and work together to kind of bring it into IAB standardization, because it can be done. As I say, it's only D96 is a 3x1, right? Or whatever ratio you want. So we get kind of hung up on the very precise specs, but actually let's think about the ratio. Let's think about how we can help standardize it as quickly as possible, because that's gonna, you know, move the needle. Because
I think you signed yourself up to some sort of steering group.
Well, actually, I know that Niels is on from the Netherlands, and me and Jivan had the lucky experience of going over to the IAB standardization meeting in December, which was all in Dutch, may I add, and neither of us speak Dutch. But they're, you know, the guys in the Netherlands are a great place to look at. You know, they're probably a bit ahead of us. I'm not sure what the last figure was, but 40% of digital out of home is programmatic or something. Yeah, let's look at our partners in Europe and other places to see how they're pushing the needle, and let's try and catch up, I think.
Yeah, to echo what JP's saying, we're not trying to say that is like the issue of creative specs. That is the issue, but there's something that you will see. But the thing is don't take it as it is in standard display, because it's not. It's not 300 by 250 that we're all going to make. it's all various sizes, and that is something you will see. But as an industry, we work together, like JP said, and we make it work.
Yeah, I think there's a huge willingness, isn't there, on every level of that stack really to help and support advertisers in getting campaigns underway and activated. What role do you think? This is probably a bit of a biased question, but it's our webinar, so we can ask it. What role do you think, JP, that media owners should play in pushing programmatic more across every partner that we interact with? We interact with SSPs, DSPs, advertisers, and sometimes and the advertiser could be brand direct, could be agency, and we're often sat here saying, well, we want to help and support and educate, but where do you think media owners could do more?
Yeah, well, I think you just need to intertwine programmatic into your daily conversations with all your buying points. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't want to be thinking of programmatic digital out of home in isolation. It's not just something over there we do. In fact, it probably works best when it is alongside an out of home campaign. But there's a reason why we're doing programmatic, which might be a weather trigger or the efficiency of day parting or the efficiency of DCO, whatever it is. So it's about you having those conversations, and also, like you've got, Jan working for yourself, and I see a lot of other media owners in the UK that are bringing this programmatic expertise into digital out of home, because we all need to learn, and it's so we can kind of marry the language of out of home and programmatic together to make sure that the people we're speaking to can understand it. But I think it's just about evangelizing, having it in your daily conversations, maybe spreading the wings outside of the normal agencies and starting to speak to digital agencies, starting to speak to digital creative agencies that like to do something a bit different, because I'm very much all for us all coming together, because I mean, God, this term gets used so much for programmatic, but when the tide comes in, all the boats rise. and I think that's absolutely true. Like gone are the days where it's like all competitors trying to compete against each other. That's all evangelize and work together to make sure that we grow this medium in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks, JP. I think we've probably got time for one more question, so I'll pull the pin on quite a big one and see how far we get. Measurement, particularly as it kind of relates to ROI. This is a big challenge for out of home, particularly when it's bought programmatically, because you look at other channels that are bought programmatically as well, transacted programmatically, and it is easier in many respects to measure return on investment in particular, but also measure the impacts of the campaign. Where do you think this is going, JP? And I'm sure, Johnny, you've got some thoughts. There are some interesting kind of ways of looking at this, but do we think there's like going to be a big shift? Can machine learning come in and sort of help, or what you looking at the tea leaves? Where do you think we could go over the next 5 years?
That's my gypsy roots in me.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, it's only going to become more mainstream. I mean, I guess at the moment we're working with third parties, so we can measure footfall, we can measure attribution. I think that everyone seems to have big budgets to do the brand lift studies, which there's plenty of businesses out there that we can work with. I mean, I think, like, again, looking at our friends over the pond in the US, they're kind of like almost there, maybe, kind of like certainly with the lesser GDPR rules and be able to kind of like collect device IDs and monitor movement and things like that. You can start to measure, I guess, campaigns in a bit of a better way than we can over here. But I think again, it's about us all coming together and trying to find out what is the end point we need to get to and how do we get to it. There's no point us in isolation just trying to do it as one media owner or one SSP. We need to start thinking together about how we can do that, because the technology is definitely out there. It's just how we can bring it in and see and weave it into what we do in digital out of home.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think One final thought, and John, you probably hear me say this quite a lot, but is we talk about the kind of the areas in which out of home isn't as strong, but we don't often, on the flip side, talk about the areas where it's really strong, like sustainability credentials, the fact that it's a one-to-many medium, it's unavoidable, it's unskippable. There's all these great attributes that it has. And do you think that, to some extent, when it comes to measurement and ROI, we focus too much on what it's not rather than what it is and what it can do for a brand?
It was interesting that you had that slide on the way the different roles that outdoor plays through the funnel.
Yeah.
We've actually got a very similar slide in our deck. It just happens to be the other way around, and it looks like a funnel. But that is where we do need to educate more. I think that like people just in their head have like outdoor is for branding. We did such a good job for years saying that billboards build brands, and we're kind of left with that legacy. Whereas actually, as you go through the funnel, like different formats, different environments do different roles, and certainly like smaller formats are great for activation. The development of things like QR codes and other sort of mobile tech as well. Do people still use Bluetooth? I'm not sure if that ever really took off or not. So there are ways to measure engagement and link outdoor to other tech, which is kind of down towards the bottom end of the funnel. But certainly, I think that as part of that, and I love the fact you had that in your deck. Like as part of that funnel, all the outdoor acts all the way through the funnel. As part of that, that's when we can start to talk about measurement and attribution, and start to prove these things at the same time, keeping true to the core values of what out of home does.
Yep, very good. We are 1 minute over, so yeah. I think we'll use that as a sign to wrap things up for today. But thank you for everyone who's attended. We will share a recording of the webinar afterwards and gladly answer any follow-up questions, whether that's Simplified Media or Place Exchange, and look forward to seeing you next time for our next webinar in the series, which we don't know what's about yet. We'll have to go away and think about that.
Yeah, do let us know. Thank you again for everyone joining. Thank you, JP, for joining us from Place Exchange. Thank you, Joel, for helping us host. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Have a great evening. Bye now.
Bye.